Welcome to Launch Stories. We're all about connecting and educating Chilliwack entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs from everywhere, but we really like Chilliwack best. Studio C at Cowork Chilliwack is located in the traditional and unceded territory of the Stalo people. We are thankful to be able to live, work, and create in this beautiful area. Thanks to our sponsors for helping us put these monthly events on, the Chilliwack Economic Partners, the Chilliwack Innovation Network, and the Chilliwack Chamber of Commerce. Let's hear it for them. And thanks to our partners for organizing launch stories every month, Cowork Chilliwack, Currency Marketing, and Zynum Ventures. And special thanks to Aiden. You should see him on that screen there. Yeah, that gives me the confidence that he's pressing the buttons. He's running all the AV equipment and recording the show tonight. So thank you, Aiden. And it's a running joke, but Aiden McAlpine, no relation. So I'm thrilled to introduce you to our guest this evening. Shelby Moreau is the co-owner of Fountain Tire Chilliwack. And before we bring Shelby out, I'm going to play a short video highlighting Shelby's passion outside of work, the Dark Lotus drift team, and the Fraser Valley drift scene. So here we go.
They call me
Please give a warm Launch Stories welcome to Shelby Moreau. Welcome, sir.
How's it going?
You took that corner kind of slow.
My bad. Usually I take them pretty fast, so.
I know, obviously. Well, Colin had suggested you as a guest, and I was saying that'd be interesting from an entrepreneurship inside a company issue. And then we got together and started talking about it, and I was like, wait a second, what is this? And so I went down a whole deep dive into drifting, and it's fascinating. So we're going to spend a good deal of time on that. But first thing I want you to do, and I'm springing it on you, but give me an elevator speech for what you do at Fountain Tire.
What I do?
Or what Fountain Tire does in Chilliwack, for example.
Yeah, we're a full-service automotive shop, so we do everything from brakes, alternators, general repairs, but we also set up fully custom-built drift cars. We work on race cars like Corvettes on tracks, muscle cars. It's never a dull day. We work on forklifts, rock trucks that the tires cost about $15,000 each.
Wow.
You need a crane to install them and stuff like that. So a little bit of everything. And of course, lots of passenger and truck tires as well.
For sure. Cool. Well, let's talk about your early days and getting started. And one of my questions for you is, where were you born, and what was your upbringing like?
I was born in Vancouver, BC, raised by a single mother. It was me and my brother. She put a lot of hard work and dedication into raising us and giving us everything we needed. And she was an amazing woman, so definitely hats off to her. Yeah.
And one of the pieces, I'm curious how you ended up in cadets.
That was her suggestion, I guess. And I always kind of had an interest in like chain of command and kind of military type stuff. I'm a little bit of a nerd myself, so
Okay.
I just kind of got into it when I was about 12 and was in there for about 3 or 4 years.
What were some takeaways from that time?
It definitely was a confidence booster. You get a lot of confidence just being around people who are confident, and you surround yourself with other like-minded people, and they teach you, survival skills and stuff like that. So for a city guy like me, growing up in Vancouver, getting to go out in the woods and learn survival skills was pretty cool.
And you mentioned in our pre-interview, but just how important your mom was to you and family. Tell me about her and the role in your upbringing.
She was just a very hardworking woman. I didn't know my father very much. I've met him a few times in my life. But she raised me and my brother by herself and did an excellent job, I think. So she wasn't perfect, but she always was trying.
And knowing now your story from this way backwards, I found it interesting that you left school in grade 9.
Yes, yeah.
Why and how did that come about?
I was kind of mixed up with the wrong crowd in my younger days. Thought it was cool to skip school and hang out at Metrotown and stuff like that, and just hung out with the wrong people kind of thing. And I really always had a passion to make some money. I had big dreams, so I started working at a young age and kind of just didn't look back.
What were some of the early jobs?
My first job was at Panago Pizza at a call center at Metrotown. And I think after that, I was at Red Robin's at Metrotown. Yeah.
And when did you catch this bug? I'm super interested because I think what's super interesting is you found your passion very early, and it seems like that's dictated your path. It's dictated your career, and some of that stuff almost seems secondary to this passion. But tell me about you getting into cars.
Yeah, I had a couple friends that were a little bit older than me, and they were into cars. And I got my license when I was 16. Didn't really have anyone that I grew up that was into cars, but I wanted to be kind of like these guys. They had body kits on their Honda Civics, and we're going to car shows and meets and hanging out with some pretty girls and stuff like that. And it looked a lot more intriguing than the bus, so. Kind of got into my first car was a Nissan Sentra, 1988. And then shortly after, I got a Nissan 240 SX, which is one of the most popular drift cars when I was 17. So.
And I imagine none of these cars ever exceeded the speed limit in and around Vancouver?
Never, not once.
Well, so were your older buddies into drifting? Like, where did that whole thing come from?
No, they weren't. I'm trying to remember how that all kind of started, but there was it was when I got this 240 SX, and drifting was just kind of it was just kind of starting in Japan, actually. So it was kind of just trickling over here, and it was very new. None of us knew how to do it properly. None of us knew what modifications we had to do to our cars. So there was a forum, and it was called Vancouver 240 SX, and that kind of took over my life. We were like on the forums, just chatting all day long and sharing parts, trading parts, selling parts, that type of thing. And then it just kind of grew from there. We had a core group of friends that some of them I'm still friends with. Some of them have, moved on, get kids and married, and cars become a secondary thing. So
what's the magic with Nissan? It's a rear-wheel drive. I guess you need that to be able to flip the...
Yeah.
I'm going to show my ignorance very clearly, and you're going to correct me across the board. But
yeah, you do need a rear-wheel drive car to do it, to properly drift at least. I mean, you could, if you go fast enough on anything, you can get it sideways.
And does it just go sideways, or do you prod it with like an e-brake, or how does it?
When you start drifting, there's a technique. It's called an initiation, and that's when you start. So there's different ways you can initiate a drift. Pulling the e-brake is one of them, but you're also braking the car, so you're kind of slowing it.
Right.
Another way would be a clutch kick. So you actually end up with your right foot all the way on the gas, point it where you kind of want to go, and then you kick the clutch with your foot on the gas, and that just upsets the drive line a little bit, breaks the rear wheels free, and then you just keep your foot down and steer through it.
And from what I understand, there's a variety of different types of drift racing. Like what did we see in that video?
So that was a day after we had a pro drift event at Mission Raceway. And then we always have, and these people travel from Saskatchewan, Alberta, Washington, Oregon, and of course BC, northern BC as well. So we all kind of converge at these major events, and then we have a lot of safety equipment in our cars, so we are competing for licenses to race in the United States in Formula Drift. So a lot of people come from all over. So on the Sunday after the race, we have these events called Pros and Bros.
Okay.
So all the local drifters get to drift alongside us, professional drifters.
Got it. So that would explain some of the janky-looking vehicles.
Yeah. I mean, some of our cars look like that after the race too, but some of these cars look like that all day long.
I love the people in the passenger seat are more concerned about getting the perfect cell phone video as they're going sideways around a corner.
Yeah, it's definitely something you want to share with your friends if you've been.
And what are some general rules? Like you've got to be sideways in a corner, is that right?
Yes. So there is like a set course layout that the judges will go over in a driver's meeting. So there's a set line that you have to take. Obviously, there's some variances there, but they have a set line. As soon as you start drifting at the start line, you initiate, and then you have to maintain the car sideways the entire time.
Wow.
So if you straighten out, you get a 0 for that run. If you spin out, you get a 0 for that run. And also if you opposite drift, so if you're supposed to be drifting to the right and you make a correction to the left and then back to the right,
got it,
that's a 0 as well.
And so what we saw with this Bros and Pros was a little more freestyle.
Yeah, that's just, I think that event we had 100 cars.
Wow.
Actually. So it's just kind of free-for-all practice kind of thing.
So in that more the pro level, how many trips around that can you do on a set of rear tires?
Probably 2.
Okay, so this is all making sense to me now that I'm going to own a tire shop so I can...
That's not how it started, but I started with working at the tire shop to get cost on the tires. That was definitely a
No, it's all coming together. It's like puzzle piece.
Yes.
And so tell me about Dark Lotus. Where did it begin? How did you come up with the name?
There was a group of us in Vancouver that kind of just a group of friends, and that's what we called ourselves. And then that once I moved out to Chilliwack, I started a small shop.
Okay.
And then I just stuck with the name kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah. And it's got that, again, showing my ignorance, but when you said drift, I'm like, oh, Tokyo Drift. Like that's, and you've got some Japanese characters in there, and there's a whole culture, I think, that it's grown from there. So early days, when you weren't all grown up, professional, on an actual track, without indicting yourself, where would you practice this? Was it on like a deserted parking lot? Or? Yeah,
deserted parking lots. I actually lived in Port Moody for a little bit. And there's a thermal plant way up past Balcara. So that road, it's a one-way in, one-way out kind of thing. So, and only workers go down there. So we used to kind of shut down that road and drift up there. But mostly how we started was open parking lots and just rainy nights, because when it's raining, it's actually, you don't go through any tires at all.
And so that first drift car, that Nissan 240, was that street legal?
Yes.
Like licensed? And
yeah, it was my daily driver.
Got it.
You know, so that's how I got into cars, because I had to fix it all the time. So
right. Is that typical? Like look at that Bros and Pros. Were many of those their daily drivers, or were they just all?
I would say a lot of the local guys do daily drive their car, and then once you get, you realize you break it a lot, and then it's pretty hard to get to work. So.
And if it's a dedicated race car, what's the insurance look like on that? Is it no need for it? Or?
No, I don't have any insurance on my race car, and I've crashed it a few times. And,
Got it. So it's on you.
Yeah.
And I guess the asterisk would be, if you did have insurance on the race car and you crashed it racing, they'd probably say it wasn't insured.
Yeah, I've never heard of anyone having a successful insurance claim on that. So
Got it. And so digging deeper into your drift car journey, what does Dark Lotus Drift Team look like today? Because you've evolved into one of Western Canada's largest, most successful teams.
Yeah, so I started with, just fixing my friends' cars in the shop, kind of thing. And then I realized I was making about $8 an hour. By the time, booking all the jobs in, getting all the parts, ordering the parts, like that type of stuff, and doing all the wrenching myself, kind of burnt myself out a little bit. And then I got a job at Fountain Tire because I needed tires at a cheap price, and had quite a bit of experience on cars. So I started there at a very entry-level position, but I knew way more than the job I got offered. So I quickly kind of went through the ranks there. And then with Dark Lotus Drift Team, that became like just a group of friends who wanted to drift competitively.
Got it.
So we actually wanted to compete and try to win some trophies. And there was actually a team before us in Chilliwack called Drift Safari, and I was a part of that team. And the team captain, he actually showed up to our event last weekend, and I haven't seen him in years. And he got out of it after he wrote off about a $50,000 car, and his wife said no more. So
wow.
Yeah.
And you being at the epicenter of this drift community, now working at Fountain Tire, I imagine you were bringing buddies that needed car repairs and tires and so forth. What did your boss think about that?
We're cheap. We don't want to buy tires for much. If we could save $5 a tire, we're going to save $5 a tire. It's very expensive. Like, tires are a consumable part, but just the maintenance and repairs it's a very costly sport. Compared to other racing, it's actually not that bad, but it's still pretty expensive.
Wow, got it.
So he kind of just thought, we're a bunch of yahoos like most of us. Most people think of us. So.
But I mean, today, I think that's driven a fair amount of your success in business at Fountain Tire, has it not?
Yeah, definitely. Everyone has once you get a little bit more serious about competition, you have a trailer.
Right.
The trailer needs tires. You have a truck. The truck needs tires, needs maintenance and all that stuff. And it's a pretty small community. So my name definitely was spoken a lot when people needed tires or repairs and stuff like that. So.
Jumping in, I'm having a slight malfunction. You see that monitor there with my cheat sheet? You see it up there. So if I'm glancing up there occasionally to see what I'm supposed to be asking you about. But so today, you're doing stuff at Mission, Agassiz, Seattle. Spec D was another term that was mentioned.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what your involvement today in racing is.
So today, I'm just the captain of our team. So I used to organize and run these events at Mission Raceway, and and I helped out a lot at Agassiz Speedway, building the foundations. We've been drifting there for over 15 years. But then I got approached by Mission Raceway probably about 6 years ago now to run some events for them. And we've been trying to drift there forever because they have a very nice facility. But they, again, think we're a bunch of idiots. So we finally got in and we put on a show. We started doing these, they have street legal drag races there on Friday nights throughout the summer.
Yeah.
So they wanted to do a Friday night drift and drag. So they actually had the drag track going with cars going down the drag strip while we were drifting at the same time. And I think our first one, we had like 3,500 spectators or something like that.
So the label of idiot is softening a little bit?
Yeah, and then they realized that it's pretty cool. And if you ever watch drag racing, those guys' whole season is about 1 minute of driving.
Right.
Where we don't get out of our cars till the tires are melted off.
Amazing. Another piece was this Drift to Gift fundraiser. I think you were involved in.
Yes.
And tell me about that program.
So that's something we started about 3 or 4 years ago. It's kind of spearheaded by my teammate. His name's Gaston Morrison. He's actually a Hollywood stunt driver who I've been drifting with for over 10 years. And he joined my team about 5 or 6 years ago. And he is very active in the community. So now we started doing these drift to gift events at Mission Raceway, where we donate the money to Variety Children's Charity, and we take people in our cars for $40 for a ride in a drift car, and we donate all the money at the end of the year. And last year, I think we raised $10,000.
So if I'm an up-and-coming drift car driver and I see Dark Lotus, like, why would I join your team? What do I get? Is it Lear jets to all of the events, or what does that look like?
It's more of a friendship thing. Like you have to be involved in the community and stuff like that, and someone I've known for a long time. We have a voting process, so whoever we bring on, we kind of all vote unanimously to bring someone on. And then once you're part of our team, you got our support. So, if I'm not driving, I'm helping my teammates in the pits, changing his tires, doing repairs on the car, whether it's pulling his transmission out and laying in the dirt, sweating. And we try to keep the drivers kind of focused on driving, not working on their car. So we'll kind of shoo them away and be like, "Oh, go take a break, have some water. We got this for you." So
got it. It's back momentarily. All right, so jumping into professional and entrepreneurial growth, because I think it's all stemmed from that. You talked about running events and having your own shop, all of those pieces, realizing that as an entrepreneur, you're making $8 an hour, and how do you get beyond that? And so it sounds like even when you took the job with Fountain Tire, you always had a side hustle. You were always growing and moving forward. But tell me about Fountain Tire. When I look at the broad spectrum of tire shops in Chilliwack, on the surface they seem fairly interchangeable. I see Fountain's a larger shop, but what's different about Fountain versus Cal Tire or Ken's Tire, for example?
So Fountain Tire was started in Alberta. It's growing across Canada now. But the difference is that we have, at most of our locations at least, we have a local owner who actually has 50% of the shares of the company, and Fountain Tire owns the other 50%. And you have someone who cares, who's involved in the community. You're not just talking to like a corporate robot who doesn't care about it. I've had the same customers for the entire time I've worked there, and it's wonderful to see, their children grow up and start driving now and helping their kids out with repairs on their cars. And it's just awesome to be a part of the community, I think, and that's a huge difference from our competitors.
And I didn't realize, I think primarily because of the name, that you were full service. And I think that's somewhat of a trend with a variety of very specialized, like it's Midas muffler and comma.
And that's something we're working on growing our mechanical side, which is just growing like massively actually. But it's always, not every day, but every other day, someone's like, "Oh, I didn't know you guys did brakes." And, I have 3 Red Seal techs, 3 apprentices that work for me. We do a lot more than just tires, that's for sure. Yeah.
And so it's approximately a 20-person shop. You started at the bottom, worked your way up to counter, and then to assistant manager, and then we're welcomed into potentially buying in and being an owner. And talk to me about that journey. Yeah,
so I was assistant manager for probably about 3.5 years. And then my boss, his name's Wally Smith. He's a mentor as well. He's not my boss anymore, he's my partner. But he got offered an opportunity to develop a new point of sale system for Fountain Tire, to be on the team. There's about 30 people on this team, and I don't know how many millions of dollars it took them to develop this. But it involved him working at our head office in Edmonton. So he took me into his office one day and he told me about this opportunity. It got offered by the CEO of Fountain Tire. And he said, "This all depends if you can run my shop for me while I'm gone." This was supposed to be about a year and a half project. I think we're on almost 3 now. So I, my jaw hit the floor. I didn't really think I was ready. I always had a lot of ambition. So I thought about it for the day, I think. Maybe even right away I said yes, but I definitely didn't think about it very long. And told him I could do it and hold it down while he was gone. Never thought that I would become an owner with him or a partner. But shortly after, maybe about 9 months in or so, he sat me down again and he asked what I thought about becoming his partner.
What's involved in that? You're having to bring some of your own capital to it, I would imagine, and you've got that 50% that's available. And how did you work your way into that? Yeah,
so most locations, it's 50-50 with one owner and the corporation. In this situation, they allowed us to do a 25-25 and then 50% Fountain Tire. And you do have to bring your own capital in. So at first, that was a big question I had, is how much money. Didn't realize how much it was. So I had to kind of beg and borrow and plead and sell some cars and parts I've had hoarding around for years and just made it work.
Side note, how many cars have you owned over the 15-year plus that you've been involved in?
I stopped counting at 130. So, yeah.
How many of those 130 were in any form or function sellable after you had? Oh,
they were all sellable.
All sellable?
Even a car's mangled, it's worth something.
Cool.
Something to somebody.
So you're able to generate that and come up with a financial plan to buy into that. And is your eventual goal to buy Wally out as he heads towards retirement? And
yeah, he actually once his project is done, which is pretty close to being done, he has got promoted to the Southern BC director for Fountain Tire. So he's actually in charge of all the stores on Vancouver Island, all the way to Chilliwack. So again, I guess he is my boss technically now.
Well, and it sounds like a really interesting model, and I would think kind of like a hybrid franchise. In a true franchise, there's almost an animosity for the brand because they don't do anything for us. But it sounds like these are very involved ownership on the ground, but then also that ability to be an owner. And I think that and probably in yourself changed your feeling about it, right?
Definitely.
This is mine.
Yeah, that took a while to settle in. I don't even think it really has yet. More and more as the days go by, but definitely at first it was takes a while to realize that you're the owner, and that it's exciting and stuff at first, and then you quickly realize how much weight's on your shoulders, and calling in sick is not an option. And if someone else calls in sick, you are the guy who's got to show up and fill those boots and make the decisions and keep the show going, right? So.
And so Wally goes off to do the big software project, and you're thrust into, now you're the manager, and the other 19 people there are staring at you going, okay, kid, how did you get here? Why should I trust you? Was there any, or was it just natural? Was there any rub with anybody?
Yeah, definitely.
They might be watching this later.
Yeah, there always is. We have an amazing staff. Almost 50% of our staff has been there over 5 years, and a lot of them have been over 10. So my partner has actually been with Fountain Tire for 37 years. And then I have another counter guy who's 20 years with Fountain Tire. I'm coming on 13. I have another guy who's 14. So we have, these are people that I've worked with for a long time. So that there's definitely a little bit of power struggle there as you come into that. A couple screaming matches, nothing I couldn't handle.
Talk to me about just the structure. Do you now have an assistant manager that's taking some of the load that you used to have?
Yeah, I have an assistant manager, so I got to decide who that was, and I promoted a younger guy, I believe he's 29, but he's doing really well. He leads with his heart, and the guys listen to him and stuff like that, and he's very intelligent. He's actually my partner's son-in-law, so he's got to behave.
Got it. And what are your hours? Are you open 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
We're open 6 days a week, so Monday to Saturday. I close Sunday. And I usually get there just before 7 a.m., finish up some days 7 p.m., right? It depends. I try to take off when I can. When it's busy, in the fall, our business about triples. So in that time, there's no breaks, there's nothing, you take a bite of your sandwich and you help the guy in front of you.
So how does that work with your drift involvement? Like, are you able to steal away for a couple of days and work that in? Is that part of your vacation days, or how does that work?
Yeah, so like just last week, actually, I had the Spec D Pro event came to Agassiz Speedway. So I took probably about 3 days off work to do that. Had a little bit of practice and stuff like that. So I did rely on my staff to kind of hold it down while I was gone. And luckily, I have like amazing staff that can do that for me. And summer is kind of a little bit slower. Like, we're still very busy, but it allows me to escape a little bit more.
And was there corporate training available to you? Like, you're coming into, I'm now an owner, I need to read financial statements, and what's a balance sheet, and how do I see how we're doing and compared to last month, and that piece of it. How did you learn all of that?
I was running Dark Lotus Performance at the time, so I had my own sole proprietorship business for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So I knew a little bit about that. I've always been kind of nerdy with numbers. Math just makes sense to me. Like, you can't lie about it, really. It's just, accounting makes sense to me. But there is some training. There's a program called Drive, which Fountain Tire has, and you're supposed to be in it before you become an owner. My partner didn't put me in it. I think he was afraid that he would lose me, because usually when you graduate this program, they offer you a Fountain Tire location pretty quickly. So they actually dropped that on top of me while I became an owner. So I have homeschool, which I'm still not done. I'm about 85% right now, actually.
Wow, cool. Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of support there to bring you up. And how many stores are in the network?
I believe there's 165.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how many in BC approximately?
BC, probably maybe 40.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. Pretty close to 40, I'd say.
All right. Well, personal life and balance. I'm curious on you glossed over it, but how did you get from Vancouver to Chilliwack? There's got to be a story there. Was there a girl? Like, how did that work?
You nailed it. So I was at a party at a friend's house. At the time, I had a Nissan Skyline, and there was this girl there who happened to drive a Nissan Skyline as well. So we kind of hit it off. And my actual friend was quite interested in her, and he was a bit sour that she was interested in me a little bit more. But we started dating, and then I had some friends out here in Chilliwack that were part of the team Drift Safari, and those were guys I looked up to. They were drifting a lot longer than me. They were already competing in Formula Drift Pro Amateur events, so they were what I wanted to be. And then I realized I couldn't afford a garage in Vancouver, or a place with a garage, a driveway most houses don't even have in Vancouver. So it just kind of made sense to get away from Vancouver, and just some of the friends that I had were going down bad paths. So I just decided to kind of change the direction of my life and move out here and really throw myself at drifting.
People in Vancouver have a perception of Chilliwack, and I think maybe that's changing as things become more populous and a lot of improvements and so forth. But did you have any hesitation moving to Farmville, Canada, or whatever you might have thought?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a huge change. Growing up in Vancouver, to come here seemed a little more redneck. But one thing I loved was, we did the street drifting to learn in Vancouver, and people would call the cops on you. Here, I do a burnout and someone offers me a beer. So I knew I was at home.
Nice. And so do you consider yourself, you've been here
16 years.
16 years, you're a Chilliwackian through and through? And
I spent, the majority of my adult life here now, so yeah. And I love it. It's a good town. Yeah,
and in those 16 years, it's just ramped up in the growth, and I imagine that's propelling your business forward as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I've have ambitions of opening another location on the Sardis side.
Okay.
So it's a dream right now, but if we can find a good location and stuff like that, then.
So how many tires do you think there are in Chilliwack?
Like tires on cars?
On cars, yeah.
Millions.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 3-4 million.
In the greater Vancouver area, or just
Chilliwack?
Just Chilliwack, okay.
Well, maybe not that many, but Yeah, I'll tell you.
I'm checking your math here. But no, it's.
I mean, there's
it's
what,
number of cars
people,
times 4 times.
Yeah, 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Average family now has 2-3 cars, like some of them, right?
Fair enough.
So, and then you have businesses with fleets of semi trucks and with trailers, and I would say there's millions of tires in Chilliwack.
And this might be an industry secret, but the fact that tires only last 5-6 years, they could make them the last 20, right? You can tell us.
I don't think so. I think rubber kind of hardens up over at age.
Fair enough.
The rule of thumb is about 7 to 8 years. Yeah.
Got it. In all of this, you have a son. So you're balancing business ownership, life, working in and around cars, doing your drifting, organizing events. Like, it sounds like you've got a full plate.
Yeah.
How have you figured out how to balance all of this?
I don't know. I follow some entrepreneurs, and I've heard that there is no balance at the start. It's just full go. So I've just kept my foot on the gas pedal and, take a moment to scream at the wall sometimes, but just keep going forward. I know where I want to be and what I want to do and who I want to be. So I just keep going in that direction.
What does he think of racing in cars?
He's just kind of getting into it now. I'm bringing him to some more track days and stuff like that. But he's definitely my kid. Like, every time he's near one of my cars, he wants to sit in it, and he's behind the wheel with the biggest smile I've ever seen. So,
And I imagine you have to have some pretty good ear protection.
Yeah, he's actually takes it pretty good. Honestly, a Chilliwack Chiefs game scared him more than the race cars. Yeah, it's pretty loud in there too. So. Through all of this, what's some of the biggest lessons you've learned about yourself, about your leadership potential, things that surprised you, where, if you look back 10 years ago, could you imagine this is where you would be? Definitely would never imagine I would be in this position 10 years ago. When I started with Fountain Tire, it was just a job and a place to get cheap tires and use a tire machine to change my drift tires over. So I just never really thought of this potential. But probably about 4 years ago, I started realizing that owning a Fountain Tire could be a reality. And that kind of shifted my focus a little bit, made me grow up a little bit, and started chasing that dream a little bit more. And it happens quicker than you think. The pages keep turning, and you keep growing and learning and just getting better.
I'm curious, and it sounds like you guys are modernizing your technology, but what role does tech play in running a network or even your particular tire store?
So we were one of the pioneers in the tire industry, at least in Canada, to come out with a digital vehicle report. So we use a system called AutoServe One, where all my technicians they can either use their phone, or I have tablets around the shop, so they can take pictures of issues with cars. They can draw arrows or circle issues on a car. They can take videos. All your brake measurements, your tire wear is all documented for our use as well. Because if you call back 6 months later and ask me how your brakes were, I can pull that up. But that gets texted or emailed to our clients, and they are able to see that. So it picture speaks 1,000 words. When you move a tire and it looks like it's fallen off in a video, it's pretty easy to understand something's wrong.
Got it. And have you found, like, AI is all the hype, obviously, and it's having an impact in every industry. Are you finding that it's impacting your industry at this point? Or are you using those tools at all?
Not yet. I've used it a little bit on, just writing documents and stuff like that, helping out a little bit. But not quite yet. Our new system should have, I think it's Microsoft Copilot. I've never used that, but I think that'll be available to us. The current system we use is very basic. It's just like a extreme version of Excel, the simplest way to put it. So just a bunch of cells with, you can do math in. And but our system, it's pretty crazy. Our accounting is all done through the same system, our ordering system, so all of our supply. We have our own Fountain Tire warehouses that deliver our tires and everything like that. Our logistics, we retread semi-truck tires. So we take old dead tires and send them up to Kamloops where our retread plant is. And they put new tread on them. That's all recorded in our system. So it's quite the complex system. You can go back and trace parts, every single transaction you've ever had in and out of this part. And it's pretty in depth when you get into it. So I'm excited for the new program though. This one's pretty old.
When we met earlier, you shared that you lost your mother recently, and just how important she has been in your life, and how that's also given the opportunity to move forward with ownership in Fountain Tire. Can you share that?
Yeah. She had heart surgery about 5 years ago, and then she passed away about 3.5 years ago. She had a genetic defect in her heart where she was born with 2 valves instead of 3, and she went undiagnosed her whole life. No one ever caught it, no doctors. So they didn't catch it till she had heart failure. They start digging in a little deeper. But she had some complications from that, and then she passed away 3.5 years ago, actually on Christmas Day, sadly. But you can't choose the day that you go. So, but she passed away in her sleep peacefully in the house I grew up in, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think you're okay with talking about it, but I think you were able to use some of that inheritance to pave the way forward, weren't you?
Yeah, it helped out a little bit. She didn't have very much saved. I think she had like $38,000, if I remember correctly. She raised 2 kids, single mom. So she didn't have much to her name. And I saved actually about $50,000, and I was going to help her move to Chilliwack to be closer to me, because at the time my girlfriend was pregnant, and she knew about my son who was coming. So she wanted to be closer to us to help with the baby and everything.
Got it.
So right before she passed, we were actually looking at condos for her, and I was going to give her my $50,000 to help her get settled in Chilliwack. And then I think in her own way, it was her way of saying, she was a very stubborn woman. She would never accept help. But I think in her own way, it was like, no, I'm going to help you.
And it sounds like she always had you in her mind, like putting you in cadets, putting you on the straight and narrow, and really being a part of your life. And what are some of the key things that you learned from your mom?
She was a very deep thinker. I could talk with her for just hours about anything from space to, I don't know, how a shoe is made. Like, I don't know, just she was, just a very deep thinker, very intelligent woman, very good sense of humor. So, even talking about death and stuff like that, we talked about that pretty openly and stuff, and always had a different perception of it. It's just like the next journey for us. None of us stay here forever. So I hope there's something else past that, but I believe in energy and stuff like that. So she's still around me and part of me, and always will be.
Awesome. The black car, that's a Nissan 300?
350Z.
350Z. Is that your dream car, or what do you really want to get your hands on and start modifying?
That's not my dream car, I wouldn't say, but honestly, I have a very big passion for cars, but I don't get emotionally attached to them anymore. So, they come, they go. I've had so many that they just kind of, they're all the same. They all need work. Doesn't matter if you have a Ferrari or a Toyota Corolla, it's going to let you down one day.
Got it. What car are you working on right now?
Right now I have, I bought a 1999 Corvette. So I'm working on building that to potentially replace my 350Z. I've had my 350Z for 11 years. It's on its 4th or 5th door. So we bump and rub a lot, and
Got it.
It's had a few good crashes, and it's still a good car, but I'm kind of ready to build something different. And these Corvettes have really become popular in drifting because they have a very powerful engine right out of the box. That a lot of people I actually have basically a Corvette engine in my 350Z.
Okay.
So now I'm kind of kicking myself because I should have just bought a Corvette in the first place. But yeah, working on that car right now.
Talk to me about Dark Lotus going forward. Where would you like to see that entity, organization in 5-10 years?
I haven't really thought about it that far. We kind of just live in the moment and just have fun. We're kind of thinking 1 year at a time, like the next race season. But we had a woman actually named Zandara Kennedy, and she joined our team about 5 years ago. And we helped her, I think it was about 4 years, get her Formula Drift Pro license at Mission Raceway. So I was pit crewing for her. And there's not very many women in this motorsports or motorsports in general. So it was really cool to see her get into drifting, and she went just head in. I think she spent over $300,000 in probably 5 years.
Wow. Is there income to be made? Like, are the purses large enough, or just enough to keep you in tires?
Just keep your tires going at our level. But once you get into the higher level, there's definitely some pretty serious money to be made. A friend of mine in Mission, he's won 2 events this year down in Seattle, and he's won $3,000 US each event. So decent money. Definitely pays for more than the trip cost him, I'm sure.
When you compare your time as a solo entrepreneur, where you're the boss and you make all the decisions and you live with the heirs and so forth, versus now being an entrepreneur within an organization, what's the pros and cons? Do you like where you're at now? Do you ever see yourself going back solo, or where do you see yourself and some of the lessons around that?
I see myself staying with Fountain Tire. I love my job. I love helping the community. And seeing the same customers over and over again, like I said, it's wonderful to see that, because they trust me. They trust my team. So I don't have any plans of leaving that. There's actually a big ring they give you on your 25 years, so I definitely got to get that. So
cool.
Yeah.
Lessons that you would impart to those coming up. Say there's someone in reaching 20 years old and they're not sure where they're going. What would you tell them?
They want to be in the tire industry?
Yeah, or be part of, well, specifically someone coming into Fountain Tire, what is their path forward? It sounds like there's all sorts of opportunities and it's sky's the limit.
Yeah, I just would ask them where they want to be, and that's part of my job now, is to coach the newer generations coming in and try to guide them down the path they want to be. Some people want to work on custom Porsche rims and do fancy stuff like that, and some people want to be out in a muddy farmer's field changing big tractor tires, and other people want to stay clean on the front desk and sell tires, right? So and some people want to become an owner, so it all depends where they want to go. But to keep it simple, I would just say whatever you want to do, you can do it. You just have to put your mind to it, and you have to put in the hours, put in the work. I've put in a ridiculous amount of overtime over the years, but I cared about the business. I treated it like it was my own. So when things went bad, I took it to heart. But when you actually care about your job and care about your career, things just keep falling into place, I find.
Are there any electric drift cars?
There was a Camaro a few years ago in Formula Drift.
Okay.
It didn't work out that great. Not quite sure what kind of issues they were having, but it melted tires, I know that. But
so if you showed up in an electric car, you're probably going to have to replace a door or 2 extra just because you're going to be a target?
Possibly. And a lot of, we usually have like fire staff at the track and first aid and stuff like that. So you actually have to have the right fire equipment to put out a lithium fire too.
Oh,
right?
fair enough.
Yeah,
fair
so
enough.
I know for a bit, I don't think there was a couple tracks you couldn't race at just for that reason.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, let's hear it for Shelby.